Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone from Melbourne, Australia. I'm Adam Rappaport, research analyst and tech wizard with the team here at GAI Insights, and I'm your moderator this week. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the daily Gen AI News Briefing. We rate and debate the latest enterprise AI news for all those busy executives who just can't keep up. So we'll give it a final rating of essential, important, or optional. And today I have with me some of our usual suspects: Luda Kopakina, Paul Baier, John Sviokla, and Ankaj Handa. Ankaj, with that, I'll quickly remind you all, if you want to follow along from home, you can go to our website, gaiinsights.com/articles, and see all the links for the news that we're reviewing today. So with that, Ankaj, why don't you kick us off with the first one?
Sure, thanks, Adam. So the first one that we have for today comes from AWS, and it talks about video security analysis for privileged access management using GenAI and Amazon Bedrock.
Yeah, pushing the envelope a little bit here. John, are you able to jump in and start this one off?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty interesting analysis of how they're using video capture in 1 second tranches to then put it to the large language model to figure out if anything untoward has happened in the interaction of somebody in either in a sysadmin position or somebody interacting with a system. And it's kind of interesting part of security. I rate it as optional, like many of the case studies that we have had from our friends at Amazon. It's really well documented and so forth. Here, let me get off my mobile here. From our AI leaders perspective. So nice case study, important minor area, not minor, but important focused area, but optional.
Yeah, I agreed optional. The one thing actually which extends beyond security, I was talking to some people the other day, and it's the idea of, as these agents more and more are able to build solutions for people, actually something that can supervise your workflow, supervise you as you're using your computer, and identify those places where it can help you get your job done quicker. Imagine Clippy pops up and says, "Hey, I noticed you just copied and pasted from Excel to that form 3 times. Do you want me to do the rest of that Excel document for you?" And you're going to need systems like that, like this one, to make that next leap. So I can see where, beyond just security, where this will be very important, there are other applications for this technology that are increasingly going to be important. But this article and this news specifically, I thought was optional. Luda, John?
Yeah,
Paul?
optional it is for me as well. Even though the process they describe, how they break it into pieces, then prepare it for the LLM to analyze, then put it all together. The process is very interesting and can be used for a lot of, instead of spot checking the video streams, and as doing it cohesively. So I liked the framework, but I think it doesn't apply across the board much. So it's probably optional.
Yeah, I mean, there is a whole super scary Big Brother thing going on here, right? Which is basically, take any sample of an interaction with a computer, stuff it in a language model, and have it analyze what you're doing. And then, also prompting the nature of the surveillance. And this thing, has detailed prompts like, following is a detailed task description, right? And here's your task context. So, yeah, it's Big Brother's here for sure, but optional.
Yeah, but John, Adam, I agree on optional, but I do think for the AI leader, though, this is yet another case for them to start thinking about use cases in their 2-year plan. So passive monitoring of assets. You can think of large factories that have all these video monitorings in here. We just had an earthquake here in Boston. You could see telecommunications companies wanting to know of what's been, if you ever had a break. So there's a lot of industrial usage that have a high ROI, because right now they're either waiting on gauges where they don't have visual, or they're waiting on a human to go through the and usually retroactive on the video.
And they've all got CCTV.
Yeah, the Fourth Amendment is gone, just gone.
Yeah, that's unfortunate,
All
especially.
right, very optional it is then. Thank you. Ankaj, let's move along.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Alibaba. So Alibaba has launched Quen 2.5 1 million parameter model.
More context window. Ludo, what do you think?
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Quen 2.5, the Quen team is a division of Alibaba with a net income of 11 billion plus last year. So it's a well-funded team. And they've been after putting out models across the board. The video, a model that was pretty high ranked across the various benchmarks. Now they are extending the input window to 1 million tokens, and they're trying to make sure that as they do that, the short-term window is operating as well, even though the techniques are different. So I think it's optional. It's another push. It's for a lot of it's a middle ground when you use the full context window to feed the LLM the specific documentation about your domain. So it's important, right? Before you go into RAG implementation. So it's a very important innovation, and they're doing it well. Ankaj, if you scroll down, you can see that they're maintaining or beating the benchmarks across the longer windows. So the context, the quality of information, the green thing, the quality of information stays the same, doesn't matter where they are sampling it. So it's a good set of models with now longer context window, which is great. But I think overall the news is optional for me.
Yeah, I agree. John, what do you think?
Same. Important advancements on dimensions we know are important. The Chinese, again, I think in a head-to-head battle with the U.S., but optional.
Yeah, I totally agree. Optional. I do think, though, it reinforces that it's so valuable to have data. So Alibaba's sitting on tons of data, just as Google is. So we're seeing all this innovation with DeepSeek and others going on the algorithmic layer. But if you can get the data, particularly data sources others don't have, you can make big progress, which I think is important for our AI leaders to understand, for them to really understand what data they have and can they get access to it as they refine their use cases.
Yeah, so one thing to mention, I didn't, I'm sorry. So the inference framework that they're deploying is sparse attention methods, and they actually detail them a little bit in here, and also in the deeper paper. So, and that allows them at the inference time with that type of context window to go 3 to 7 times faster on the inference. So this is quite significant in overall models go, and it's open source. So that's why I think it's optional as the models go, but I think it's an important innovation. To Paul's point.
Optional it is then. Okay. Thanks so much, Ankaj. Onwards.
Yes, so the next one comes from MIT News, and it talks about a video generator model of the molecular world.
Yeah, so I'll jump in and take this one. As I think I can describe it, I wish Tim were with us. This is certainly right up his alley. The concept is that there's lots of good models already that can predict and create new novel molecules. But when you're trying to figure out how they're going to interact with something like a cancer that they're trying to treat, it's an incredibly complex thing. And this effectively allows, as they say, allows the researchers to press play on this 3D molecule and actually simulate and predict what will happen in those complex interactions that used to be quite expensive and difficult to accomplish. So it's cool stuff. We're going to see so many incredible breakthroughs in the near future from this kind of research. Everyday miracles, an optional read, in my opinion. What do you think, John?
Yeah, look, this is a very, very important research effort. I was thinking, I was actually thinking back to a friend of ours who's a biotech investor, and we've been talking a lot about, or thinking a lot about, how do you create an AI cluster, that's even stronger in the Boston area. And this would be, the kind of thing that would be a fantastic, that'd be a fantastic place to put some research money to do the translational research, which they mention in here. Really, they need to do lots more computation, explication of this, and you can see the number of grants they had to put together to make this happen. But this is, this is like a protein, like AlphaFold. Somebody's going to win a Nobel Prize for this, and it's, beautiful work, but optional.
I think it's essential for the pharma and labs that are pushing the boundary here. So, but for the general population, I think it's optional.
Yeah. Yep. Back to the other one, Ashish asked an interesting question. Will U.S. companies use Chinese models? That's a great question, Ashish. I don't know. I was at one of the big four when they got some instructions from the State Department to really encourage their clients not to use Huawei, and especially the European clients who are adopting it. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with the models. I can understand on Huawei how the Chinese government can surveil, but it's not as clear to me on the models. If you have the source code, how would the surveillance by the Chinese companies, by the Chinese government work? If you have it local and so forth, I don't know. Be curious to find out.
I think the small, John, I think the medium, small companies might actually use the models. The larger companies would think twice about it, I think. But what I think will happen is that the major AI labs will take apart the DeepSeek and Quinn models for their innovation, and they're talking about how they're doing it, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Try to use it as much as possible. So we'll see another wave coming with all this innovation incorporated in models that are US based.
I keep talking about the concept of the last mover advantage, and we're going to keep seeing it over and over again. The newest thing to market is just building on top of all of this innovation. And what we've just seen with DeepSeek, someone's going to say, wow, look, there's 5 great new ideas, and they're just going to go expand on them.
Same with Quinn, right? They are talking about how they're doing the inference speed up. So you can take that and think about it, incorporate it.
Well, quick notes. We did some discussion last night in Learning Lab, and next Monday we're going to have a Learning Lab just focused on DeepSeek for people. But one of the things that was mentioned today in the Wall Street Journal, they had a startup company that was using Claude and already switched using DeepSeek purely because of cost. So I think, alluded to your point, that at least some of the, the very cash constrained companies at the small level who can move nimbly, great, you're working on it, Claude, but that's going to take you 3 months or 6 months or 3 weeks to get. In the meantime, I can save money today. And by moving over.
Paul, I was actually, DeepSeek platform is down right now, so you can't get yourself an API key. I was going to plug it into some of the agents we're building internally to do some of the deep research. I did this 45-minute crawl with OpenAI. It cost me $6. It's not a lot of money for the amount of information and the time we save, but I was like, geez, that would have cost me 20 cents with DeepSeek. There's no reason not to. It's amazing.
Let's use the use case example next week when we're talking through DeepSeek. That's a great one, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we have a good article on Nvidia stock coming up.
Yeah, with that optional news, nonetheless, let's move along. Thanks, Ankash.
What's wrong with our today, Adam?
This is just wait.
Okay, the next one comes from Google Research, and it talks about Parfait enabling private AI with research tools.
Yeah, what do you think, John? Private aggregation, retrieval, federated analytics, inference training, parfait.
Yeah, I love that. Gotta love it. You gotta think that they used a robot to help find the name. The which I've done. Anyway, I was going to rate this optional. I could be convinced of important. I think that this notion of federated learning, I think, is going to be massive, especially as intelligence moves to the edge and people get more and more concerned about who has access to their data and capabilities and so forth. I think it's going to be an integral part of the security architecture of the AI as it moves forward. But I think it's for our AI leader. This is not something we need to do today, really. Most of the folks that we've been working with are not doing federated learning, as far as we can tell. And so I think it's something to keep in the back of your mind. I think certainly Google's put out a great new innovation here, and the notion of federated learning as a strategy is going to be big. But I was going to give it an optional.
I was going, for the reasons that you mentioned, I was going important, because I think it's a great framework. They have been working at it since 19, right? So and in pieces, testing them, putting them together. They're opening source. It's open source now. It's a framework to certainly keep in your back pocket if you're not doing it today, but it will become more and more important. And I think we need to flag it. So I'm important on this one.
I could go with that.
Adam?
Paul, what do you think? Oh,
You're on mute.
He's not on the mute there.
I clicked away and I got into browser multiplication. So yeah, my vote's completely for sale. I'm on the fence on this.
What's the price? A DeepSeek price or an OpenAI price?
DeepSeek. DeepSeek price.
Feeling cheap today. Paul, I'm the same way. In spite of Luda's passionate pleas, I remain unconvinced. It's research still, and I think they have so much more material things that they're going to have to address for the majority of them before they get to this point. I'm curious, Ankaj, if you can tip the scales for me.
There you go. You play the role of the vice president. There we go. In the U.S.
For all the reasons that John and I think Luda mentioned, somewhere I feel it's important, given how enterprises will look for private AI going forward. Maybe with the likes of DeepSeek, if they share their source code and stuff, maybe that's important. So yeah.
All right.
Flagged it is. Important it is. Thank you very much.
Yay! Thank you, Ankaj.
We got there.
All right.
I want to push back.
Go ahead.
You can classify it as research, but it's really not. As I said, they've been testing these components, and they say that the full system has been run in a number of places. They don't give examples, granted, but they do say that, and they delineate those pieces and how it comes together. So I'm not sure it's research. So that's why I'm more into important.
Fair call.
All righty.
Okay. Moving right along. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next one that we have is from Jeffrey Manuel, and he talks about the short case for Nvidia stock. It's a long article.
Yes, and just clarification. When I first read that, I thought he was being positive, but he was using short as in why you should short in the financial sense. So it turned out to be a long article. I thought he was making a bull argument in a short article, but it turned out, briefly.
No, he's talking about as in the bulls and the bears and shorting the stock. Yes, It is a very long article, and it's very dense. Luda, what did you think?
I actually think this is important to essential. It's a long article, but what's his name? Jeffrey Manuel. He has the accolades to actually go through, and he understands the software stack. He understands the all, not all, but a lot of the technical things that are happening underneath that development. The DeepSeek coming into on the scene and taking the stock down a notch. So what I think, if you are short of time, you go to the bottom of the article and read the wrapping it all up. And essentially, the argument here, and Adam and John, please jump in. The argument here that Nvidia faces a lot of competition in how it is constructed. Certainly on the hardware front, there's Cerebras, Grok, that push, and others who are doing their own chips and pushing on the architectures on the hardware front. On the software stack, they're also vulnerable because there are many competitors who are doing they have this CUDA, the connectivity framework, right? That they are doing different ways, right? Also pretty competitive. What the DeepSeek has demonstrated that that users would need 95% less inference, right? Thus, the demand for NVIDIA inference time will go down and for their chips as a result. And then the NVIDIA manufactures through TSMC, right? And that is also, and TSMC can manufacture for customers, avoiding the IP that NVIDIA has. So it's all these four areas are good areas, and he discusses them in detail in this article. So I think it's essential to understand the dynamics of the market, to read it.
I'm on the other side. I think from an industry standpoint, great. For my AI leader fighting budgets and 2-year roadmaps, this just means things might get cheaper.
True.
And I don't think he should care about stock, or she should care about stock trading. They should care about impact and total cost of ownership. And I think this is good news for them.
Yeah.
Oh, so you would support essential or important because of that?
No, I just optional.
Good try, Luda.
Yeah, they should assume things keep getting cheaper, and this is an argument that it keeps getting cheaper.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me make the case for essential. I hear you, Paul. If I weren't, if I'm an AI leader, I'm either renting or buying Nvidia boxes, and so, I should understand, and that's going to be a, roughly a, 3-year investment, let's say, that I'm making if I'm owning them, and this notion of, hey, now AMD is actually in the race, and that their software drivers, are going to be better, and that I think I need to understand that. I think with Cerebras, I need to understand, hey, if I'm doing leading edge compute, Cerebras might be my thing, way more efficient, and their yield is coming up. So I disagree. I think a lot of our AI leaders are actually investing directly, indirectly, or leasing the hardware stack. And this is not a bad article in terms of what those hardware stack dynamics are in the near term.
Right, Paul, I was rating it, yeah, it will get cheaper, totally. But I was rating it important because it talks very knowledgeably about, for example, the software stack and what are the vulnerabilities and who is doing what and how it will eventually, he doesn't say this is my prognostication of how it will evolve, but he shows the dynamics of competitive landscape. And that's I liked about it, right? Because, and it's even though the article is long, but each section can be an article. So I think he did a very good job on doing so. So it's
my vote, my DeepSeek price for my vote's 2 pennies. So you've got it.
Yeah. All right,
Next.
baby.
All right. Well,
give you a Trump coin,
Adam.
So I think if you're going to read one part of it and you're trying to catch up on DeepSeek, this part here about the theoretical threat is probably the best part to read. I agree, it is extremely long. I think for that reason, I wouldn't want to call it essential. I think it's definitely important. It's worth having for the people who are interested in understanding the broader landscape around around Nvidia, at the hardware layer, at the software layer, as it says here, at the more theoretical layer. But in this section here, just on DeepSeek, it gets into several technical innovations that really lay out clearly why DeepSeek isn't just another O1, and that they're really doing things differently, and why so many people are going to be able to follow them now that we've made these breakthroughs and we understand what we can accomplish for so much less. So I think important is the right place to land on this. Anyone going to strongly object?
You going important or essential?
Important.
Yeah. Essential, baby. Essential. Okay.
Yeah. Probably the hardest thing with going to essential is that if you share a link with someone and it comes from YouTubeTranscriptionOptimizer.com, they're probably going to think it's a scam to start with. So what a funny website.
I guess
I was like, is this really like the news for today?
Sure. Yeah. Just one quick thought. Andrew Carnegie, the person who made U.S. Steel and made a fortune in steel business and so forth, he used to do a thing. He'd have people come over and he gave them a test of their ability to focus. And he said, if you can't focus for 5 minutes straight on something, you can't do anything. And so this is a good focus exercise for our readers. But all right, I'll live with important.
Well, I can support essential for different, as I said, it's dynamics of competitive dynamics. It's really, if you step back and think about it, it captures the evolution of this whole AI wave over the last 2 years.
Yes. And it's
and the landscape on many different
landscape
technologies.
and the innovation.
I'm sold. Essential it is.
Okay.
Paul with his nothing burger over there. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
Right onwards.
The last one that we have comes from. Yeah, so the last one comes from DeepSeek and talks about their Janus series, which are unified multimodal understanding and generation models.
Yeah, here we are right on the heels of DeepSeek with their reasoning model, them coming out with Janus. It's an interesting development, as you can see on the graph, as we would expect. The latest model does best on the benchmarks. I think, especially by comparison to the other news that's been coming out of DeepSeek this week, this Janus model is probably optional news. It seems more like an incremental advancement in a fairly crowded space with some of the other relatively small, when you say 7 billion parameter and smaller down to 1 billion, like vision models. So I'm voting for optional news. What do you think, Luda, John?
Optional.
Yeah, I guess. See, it has a whole bunch of innovations again. So that what gives them the performance. So, and if you look at this WebNet and the quality, it's fascinating. So I don't know. I was thinking maybe we should actually give it importance, because I think the multimodal reasoning, understanding, and generation is the field that would impact a lot of industries. But it is technical. The innovations are technical inside the models. So the AI leaders will not necessarily use them per se. So that's why I guess I will go with optional, but with a lot of hesitation, I guess.
John, I'm still leaning towards an optional on this GitHub repository. You want to talk me up to important? I hear Luda's points. You make good points.
Yes.
This is an important space.
I really could go either way. So up to you, man. It's there's. It all depends on how deep you think our AI leader is in terms of wanting to know next wave. The fact that it's coming from the Chinese is going to get lots of push. This whole thing about, Paul talked about the move by, and Luda, you mentioned the move by entrepreneurial companies to go to these cheaper models that are great performance. I guess important. Let's make it important. I mean, they should know this stuff's coming.
Yeah, it is coming.
Okay.
All
Against
right.
my better judgment, I'm going to allow the democracy to prevail.
It's not always a good thing.
No,
You know,
no, it isn't.
I mean, Plato was right. It's just that the good dictators don't come along very often.
I'm not one of them.
I mean, Lee Kuan Yew.
Ankush, when you can bring up a final tally, we'll go with an important on that one. Thank you. Okay, we started off slow, but we got into two importance and an essential to close out the day.
All right.
Luda, John, Ankush, thank you as always for your time and your input. Thank you to all of our people who played along from home. And if you're watching this later, then thanks for sticking into the end.
All righty.
Catch you all tomorrow. Have a good day.
Tomorrow.
May you live in interesting times.
We sure do.
Ain't that the truth?